People seem to like whenever I tell work or school stories. That is, I talk about corporate culture, working in a large organization, or going to school, and just the various nonsense associated with that. So I actually have a good story, a series of interrelated stories, as it were, today. So, as I've been saying over the last couple of years, I've been working on my master's degree. I'm 3.5 years into it, I think. I have two courses left. Once I'm finished the one this semester, I just have one more in the fall, and then I'm done. I'll have my master's degree by Christmas. And the program I signed up for was because it was a master's degree designed for people who were working full time. It was online. You could do coursework asynchronously, although they changed that, and now I have to do all these discussion posts. But my latest course, they give you like 2 days to put them up, as opposed to a week like it used to be. But I digress. You would have most of the readings in advance. You would have the assignments at the start of the semester. So long as you met deadlines, you could basically work at your own pace, which is something I really liked. And it's something I spent a lot of my weekends doing, is just plugging away at my master's degree. And like I said, this was designed to be for young, upcoming professionals who want to take the next step in their career. And the big problem with that, and the thing that makes that entire premise of the program a lie, is how the exam structure works. Now, I don't know if this is typical for grad programs that are based on coursework, but exams in my program are like 3 days long. There's 3 days of exams at the end of every course. And they're three like full days of exam. Now, the actual content of the exams is maybe like half a day of real work. A lot of it is just the prof like reads slides of the previous, like re-summarizes all of the course content. You maybe do like 3 hours of group work, and then you write the exam, and you only have like 3 hours to write the exam. So the amount of time you're actually like in a session over the 3 days is probably like 8 to 10 hours. If even that. I mean, there's a bunch of reading and other stuff you have to do in between it, but it is a 3 day time commitment, and they will space it out in such a way that you can't just do it in the morning, or you can't just do it in the evening, or whatever. There's long periods in between to ensure that you're physically there for the whole day. Now, traditionally, this used to be done in person. They would require everybody to go to university in person. So, if you're working in Ontario or Quebec or Manitoba or Saskatchewan, you'd have to fly out to the West Coast and do 3 days of school there. And obviously, you didn't have any time for sightseeing. And it was very expensive, because it's what, like, for me to go like somewhere else in Canada from where I live now is like $1,200. It's between $800 and $1,200 depending on the time of year. It was a little cheaper back before COVID, but the ask was that people would spend like $800 to fly to a particular location. Um, if you were like really lucky, I guess you'd get like the night you'd arrive the night before the exam, and then you'd leave the after the last exam. So you had to spend 3 nights at a hotel. So I don't know how much people normally spend at hotels. For me, it varies a lot. But let's say $400. We'll just pick a random. So you had to spend $1,400 to go to each exam, which is like half the cost of a course. So that was adding another 50% onto the cost to take any program, assuming the course didn't have textbooks, which fortunately most of them don't now, but some of them do as well. So the courses are what, like $2,400, and then on top of that, you have to spend another 1,400 to fly to do your 3 days of exams, which is your professor just reading off PowerPoint slides, maybe a little bit of group work. And the thing is, like, not everybody has employment privileges. That is, not everybody has paid vacation days. Like, let's assume the best case scenario. You want to take we'll say normally 3 courses a year. Maybe you want to do this program faster, and you want to do 2 courses a semester. We'll just say one for the moment. So you will have 9 days of exams a year. And they have changed it so that it's not on weekends anymore. Because it used to be like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or they try to at least put one day on the weekend. They've completely stopped doing that. I complained about it, and they told me that professors are are more oppressed than gamers, that their lives are so hard they can't work on weekends, even if they got time off at other parts of the week. It's too much to ask them. Do you know how much effort it is to like read off of PowerPoint slides for a couple hours? All their students have to suffer because they don't want to do it. So the expectation is everybody in the program, on top of spending the $1,400 to fly to the West Coast to get a hotel, is you have to use 9 vacation days, 9 paid vacation days for the program, which the legal minimum in most provinces is 2 weeks. Really, really good jobs in Canada is 3 weeks. Anything that goes above that, you're either a teacher or a seasonal employee, or you've been at your company for like 20 years. So this is designed for young up and coming professionals. So a lot of these people are probably new to their jobs and they don't have any vacation time. And if they get any vacation time, 100% of it is going to have to be committed to this program. So then you start like adding it up. So that's so we have $1,400, and then we have 3 days of whatever you make at your job. Let's just assume you make $30 an hour. 30 times 7.5 times 3. So that's like another $600-700. So the cost of taking the exam is $2,000. Pretty much. Assuming, you also have to eat while you're there, so there's that expense as well. Also, you have to get to the airport and stuff like that, and maybe you need someone to look after your cat. But my point is, the exam was like almost as much as doing the actual course. So that is like what the expectation was. That was what they thought. They thought that was acceptable and that was a good idea. Now, fortunately, I only had to do one of these, and then COVID happened, and then they canceled in-person exams. They were like surprised that everyone preferred doing online exams. They're like there's someone in my program who's like from the Northwest Territories, and they're like, it's nice to not have to like fly halfway across the continent. I'm like, no shit. So like that was the expectation. There was no exception given for the person who was living in Yellowknife to make it easier for them to not have to do in-person exams, because they weren't Indigenous. Even if they were Indigenous, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have been given an exception because it's a university. So that is kind of the state of affairs for my program. Now, fortunately, I got laid off, and I was collecting CERB, so I didn't really have to worry about going to taking time off of work to go to exams. I was getting my Trudeau bucks. Then when I started working again, it was just basically 2 years. All my vacation days went towards it. Now, another thing, as I said, is you have your 2 weeks vacation minimum, but that is purely theoretical. Whenever you get hired to a new job, you have a 3 to 6 month probation period where you don't have benefits, you don't accrue vacation time, you can't put money in your the company pension fund or anything. And so you have the 3 months taken off of that. Also, it's like bullshit, because some companies, like, your vacation days start on your day of employment. Some it's fiscal year, some it's calendar year. So let's say you start in like June or something, you get like 3 months taken off of that, and then it's calculated based on like the remainder of the year, and then so you might only get 5 days. Which brings me to my current situation. Now I switched jobs, I had to move, and I started midway through the year, and I had a 6 month probation. So that means that I don't get basically any vacation days until next fiscal year. So all the vacation days I have to be spent doing exams, and on top of that, I have to take unpaid leave of absence to go do that as well. So not only am I spending like not I'm forfeiting a day that I could be taking off to do something else, but I'm actively having to reduce my paycheck. And this brings us to kind of part two of the video, which is this whole culture of life. Well, actually, one second. We'll just finish off with the university. So I emailed them and I said that this was like, you guys talk about social justice. You constantly send me emails about equity, about opportunity. You build this program as being like accessible for professionals. And I just said, look, there's a lot of people in this country who are poor, who have families that they need to feed, who are facing hyperinflation. And I said a lot of them. Well, not I said a fair amount of this. And I don't think it's fair that you're basically billing someone the equivalent of $2,000 extra to go to an exam that isn't like that could be done online. And that should be partially done on weekends, and you should just give professors lieu days. And they're like, oh, well, that's not what equity means. That's not what helping disadvantaged people mean. That's if you look at the fine print, it says we try to make this program for, and it just was this like massive J slur, like going through the like fine print on everything. It's like, okay, I get that the fine print says that. You don't have to act like a fucking lawyer. Like it's so sleazy. There's a reason that's called the spirit of the law. There's like the spirit of your rhetoric, even if it technically maybe says that in the fine print. If your advertising says something, if you bill yourself a certain way, if you advertise yourself that way, if you take public credit for being a certain way, and that's what these people want. They're like, oh, we want all this credit. We want to be loved by everyone because we're the diverse university that helps out disadvantaged people. Well, what about poor people? No, fuck poor people. Poor people, they have no exceptions. There's no like, we can't make any allowances for them. I was like, look, I can't afford to do. I can't technically, but you get my point. I'm like, it is an undue financial burden for me to have to take 9 days of unpaid leave to do this program, and they're just like, well, like, tough luck. That's not an equity issue. And I'm like, well, I have a disability too, and they're like, well, that's not an equity issue either. It's not discriminating against poor people to make them take unpaid leave of absences from them. So, whenever your university, I've noticed this from pretty much anywhere. Any company you work at that talks about diversity, that talks about equity, that talks about compassion, if you ever bring that up in a way that would be advantageous to you, they will shut you down so fast. They will go into full-on hedgehog mode, and they will just completely, like, you will get in trouble for that, for trying to call them on any of their bullshit rhetoric. And like, once if they just want to be that way, if they just want to say fuck you, we don't care about you, we're gonna have our 3-day exams because we can, and we want to do it that way. That's fine, but don't like say all this stuff about how compassionate you are and all the exceptions you make and stuff like that. It just, I hate stuff that's fake and G-slur. And I hate stuff that's done to virtue signal, but that the people are completely unwilling to back up. So that's one half of it. That's the university half. The second half is the workplace half. And the last 3 workplaces every workplace I've worked at has had a culture of lifelong learning. It's a culture of learning. They want to support everybody. If they want to take that training course, if they want to upgrade their skills, we want an employee base who's excited to come to work, that's constantly changing, that's constantly doing new stuff. We support our employees. And then it comes down to you asking them to show some of that. Now, the training industry is one of the biggest grifts in the history of humanity. It is a complete and total scam. corporate training courses are like $1,000. Like they can range from like 100 to like $2,000 for like a day or two. Most of the time, it's taught by like hacks who don't know what they're talking about. They give you like worksheets or something. It's just a massive waste of time and money. Their shitty workshops will often cost more than or cost like half or almost as much as one of my master's courses are. And I just like to say, like, which is has more value, a master's course taught by a university professor based on like that gives you a holistic view of industry standards, or like a 2 day course with some asshole who gives you a certificate. And I'm sure there's kickbacks involved. I'm sure that like there's some like tax scam or something like that, or companies own these and it's a way for them to give money themselves. I don't know, but they will pay for that. They will pay for you to go to the shittiest things. Although the first place I worked said we have a problem with retention because their workplace was awkward shit. Um, if you take a training course and you leave before a year's over, we are going to demand you pay us back the full amount. If you leave after 1 year, we will deduct half of your training courses from your final salary. If you if you stay 2 years, then I guess we'll pay for it. And that was the attitude there. It's like that was the culture of learning at that company. And I mean, I guess I just refused to take any. Cause I'm like, all these courses you're telling me to take are like 2 grand. I'm not doing that because you could decide to fire me tomorrow, or lay me off without cause or whatever. And then I'd be on the hook for thousands of dollars of courses I didn't really want to do. And that was used as like a bludgeon against me as being like a problem employee who didn't deserve a raise because I didn't want to learn. And I'm like, I don't want to take courses I don't think are worth like $2,000 if I'm going to be on the hook to pay for it. Especially, and that was the company that refused to give me a raise for 3 years and was shocked when I left. But that was the culture of learning there. Culture of learning at the next company was well, it's we provide tuition assistance for employees. Technically, your degree is directly relevant to this and is exactly what you're doing, but we don't want to give you tuition assistance, so we're classifying your degree as being unrelated to it. You can't receive any of the money that we have available that we said we had available. I don't think it exists. That's probably my guess. They're like, if you want to take a shitty training course, though, you can go do that. And I'm like, oh boy, that sounds amazing. So that was the attitude there, and they won't even give you like training days. They won't even like. So I was like, okay, well, okay, so you're not going to give me tuition. That's fine. Could I at least have like one of the 3 days like as a comp day, as like a training day, because I'm going to be using the stuff I learned there? They're like, no, it's not fair that we let you go to university on the company's time. I'm like, but you have the lifelong learning, workplace learning thing. You tell employees like in every email, like quarterly email, upgrade your skills, go to school. And they're like, yeah, but that's like for our shitty proprietary training company we have an under the table deal with. So that was number two. Number three I went to was also like that. There was like a fake culture of learning that translated into not being allowed to use any of the training funds. And then at my current company, they just said, okay, well, we have tuition. We will pay once again for a shitty $2,000 training course. We will not give you a penny for your university degree. Even though your university degree is directly relevant to your job and will significantly help your performance, we do not provide tuition assistance for accredited universities. We only do it for um, like this crappy company that gives you printouts for like $500 an hour. And that's the culture of learning. That is the culture of lifelong learning. that is endangered at a lot of these. And once again, it's just that it's so fake and Giesler. Like if you're not gonna have it, then don't have it. I hate the whole like we're gonna pretend to do this. We're gonna have this like theoretically available, but it's de facto not available, and we're doing this so that we can get some cool points and we can be the hip company that that looks after us. I just find it very humiliating. Like I would much prefer that they just they don't pretend to offer anything than to have to fake it. The same thing with all this like oh we care about poor people. We and to be fair, like I'm not a poor person, but the fact that I'm not poor doesn't mean that charging me like $2,000 extra in exam is fair. Like I can't actually afford that. I have to go pretty deep into my savings. Unfortunately, we had COVID. So there's that. And I guess the third part of this whole story is for whatever reason, my program is not covered by student aid because of like an administrative error, because you cannot get student aid for part time programs. You can get student aid for full time programs that are taken part time. You cannot get student aid for part time programs. Literally because there's no checkbox on the. It's like because the form asks you what percentage of a full course load are you taking. At every university ever, it's 4 or 5. They can't put it down for part-time programs, so you just don't get student aid. And I went like I emailed the prime minister's office, I emailed the federal minister, the provincial minister, and they all just said, "Look, it's there's nothing we can do. Like you don't meet the requirements. We don't give a shit about you." And I'm like, well, as someone with like a disability, I'm entitled to this money, and I feel that you're violating my civil rights by denying it to me on an arbitrary basis. They're like, well, they don't even really address that. Like, you have like Justin Social Justice Trudeau. Like we I can't leave Canadians behind. We have to help people with disabilities and stuff. It's like, but when it comes any of these F slurs to put the money where their mouth, they won't do it. They take all the credit for it. They talk about how amazing they are. People will suck them off and say that they're like the greatest dudes who's ever lived. But at the end of the day, when it comes to put the money where their mouth is, they will invariably just flake out on you and not deliver on any of the shit that they. So that is my tale, and that is the culture of lifelong learning. That is equity and diversity, and that is social justice from Justin Justo Trudeau. So God bless everybody. Fortunately, this is going to be over soon, and I won't have this financial albatross hanging